Hi friends, and welcome back to Gardening Suburbia. My name is Amanda. I'm a gardener slash homesteader here in Cincinnati, Ohio, Zone 6. Today is a beautiful day. We have some storm clouds up ahead, which is giving us a good cool breeze along with some shade. And it is about halfway through August, which is insane. The gardening season always seems to rush by so fast. So it is time to start prepping my beds for the fall garden. This year, I was planning on getting a start on some fall slash winter crops of some brassicas, some leafy greens, and some herbs. Now, for my zone, I should have started my brassicas in about mid to end of July. I missed that time date, which is perfectly fine. It gives me the opportunity to go ahead and actually support a local greenhouse. So one of my favorite greenhouses here in the Cincinnati area is a family-owned greenhouse for well over 100 years, and that is Funky. So today, this morning, I went with my friend and we went ahead and picked up a bunch of different brassicas and onions, as well as some other few odds and ends, and maybe some things that I just thought were so stinking cool. So we're going to get some beds prepped. I am not going to be planting out my brassicas just yet. With these plant starts, we typically want to plant these about 6 to 8 weeks before our first frost. My first estimated frost here in Cincinnati is October 21st. So that is about 9 weeks on like Monday or Tuesday. So I am going to wait a week or two to plant these guys out, just because I don't want to plant them out too soon, then get hit with a huge heat wave, which I did look in the forecast. We do have some hotter weather coming our way. I don't want the plants to then think it is time to go ahead and produce seed. So with brassicas and lettuces and other root vegetables, once it gets too hot, those plants will go ahead and produce seed. That's the main point of the plant, is to produce seed so that those plants can go ahead and reproduce and then keep spreading. So I am going to hold off on planting out my brassicas. So I'm going to keep these guys in tender love and care inside of my house where it's cooler. I can regulate the temperatures. But I did pick up a whole flat of brassicas. So I've got some Brussels sprouts. I think I've got 2 varieties of Brussels sprouts. We've got a Red Bull, as well as I think our Jade E Cross, which I have grown from them, might have been 2 years ago now. So I'm going to go ahead and try these guys out. The last time I did brassicas, I let them overwinter, and that was a kind of fun experiment. We're going to be doing a lot of experimenting this fall and winter because I want to see how much I can pull from my garden during these cooler months. So we did get some other things, such as our onions. I got 2 different varieties of onion. We've got a candy onion, which is a bigger bulbing onion, as well as some red burgundy, which is a red onion that has a tangier flavor profile than our white onions. I think I got 2 or 3 different types of cabbages. So I've got a golden cross cabbage, a Brunswick cabbage, and so we got 2 different types of cabbage. We got a golden cabbage and a Brunswick cabbage. One is a 90-day cabbage, the other is a 45-day cabbage. So again, we're going to be waiting to plant these out for a little bit. Oh, and then a mammoth red cabbage. I've never grown red cabbage, so this will be a fun experiment. And then we've got a couple of different types of thyme. I also wanted to add in some lavender. I think I'm going to be starting a bunch of lavender from seed this year, but I got a few from Funky's as well. And then we've got this really cool, pull this guy out. This is another variety of lavender. It's a yellow lavender. It has a super distinguishable scent that's not quite like your typical lavenders. It almost smells like citronella. It says that when grilled, it has a flavor profile similar to that of rosemary, but it has a more distinct sweetness to it. So I'm super excited about this one. This one smells really incredible. You can definitely feel the tar on your fingers when you go ahead and try to get that scent. It's, if I try to explain, it's like Vicks rub, like vapor rub. It really opens up your pores. I love it. So picked up one of these guys because I just couldn't help myself. And then this one's a fun one, which I was super excited about. And I told my boyfriend that he would also be excited about this. This is a mimosa piticle. This one produces pretty like light lavender puffs of flowers, which this guy looks like it's about to put one off. But it's also a tickle plant, is what the name was. It has really beautiful foliage. And if you go ahead and tickle, let's see if it does it for me. It might not do it. Let me get a different one. Come on, show the people the show. The leaves close when you touch it, and it's so cool. So this guy I am going to be keeping inside. Well, maybe I'll keep him outside. I'll have to do some research to see if it is a perennial in my area, and if it is not, I'll put it in a pot that I can go ahead and bring it inside during the winter and take it back out during the summer. But I thought this was a super cool plant. I showed my boyfriend. I was super excited about it. He thought it was cool. So it's kind of like one of those the Venus flytraps that you feed it flies or watch it eat flies from your house. This one's kind of like an interactive plant where you can kind of see it interact with you as you touch it. So that is my little plant haul. I did pick up some compost, nothing too fancy, nothing extravagant. Definitely just got it from Home Depot. I am balling on a budget, so I'm going to be top dressing my beds with this compost, and then giving it a good shake of some worm castings. I have been looking into what's called back to Eden gardening, or back to Eden method. I'm not really sure which one it is, but basically is a practice of dressing your garden beds with a thick layer of mulch. So that's like a like a thick layer of mulch. And essentially this just kind of acts as a cover for your garden beds. It keeps the ground from spreading weeds, but also maintains moisture and kind of, I'm really not going to explain this well. It is something that I have been researching and thinking about. It may be something that I will implement or try implementing on a very, very small scale in my garden, simply because this house is not mine. If this house were mine, I'd be ordering, truckloads of arborist trimmings of pines, greens, and wood shavings or wood chips. But since this is not my house and I don't own a wheelbarrow, and the thought of trying to haul in an enormous load without a wheelbarrow is kind of beyond me. So I'm gonna still keep an eye on mulching methods that will work for my scale, my area, and where I'm at currently in life. But today we're going to be pulling all of the tomatoes out of the garden. They have long lived their life, and a ton of them have seen way better days. I have got blight galore, and I need to go ahead and rid my garden of all of the disease and make it afresh for our fall garden. Also at Funky's they do an exchange thing where if you bring planters or anything of gardening variety, you can turn it in and get something in exchange for free, or for exchanging what you brought. And I took in a planter that wasn't quite my style in the garden and exchanged it for something so cool. It's a hand-painted ceramic pot, and I think it's just simply beautiful. Whoever painted this, it's gorgeous. So I'm super excited to have this little beauty in my garden. Despite it being old and chipped, it is still so stunning. So I'm super excited to plant something in this. We'll see what that is. Alright, so the bed is now cleared of tomatoes. This is my haul. I still had some in this bootstrap farmer tray that we're finishing ripening. The ones that are ripe, I'll go ahead and make some sauce with, because I've got some really pretty ones in there. But I am going to leave one single tomato plant on this side. It's this guy. He looks the healthiest. It's got a few little flowers on it. It may not do anything, but I figured why not. We'll just see what happens. This trellis has been overtaken by loofahs, which I'm totally fine with, because I honestly wasn't sure I was going to get any loofahs, and I've got a trellis full of beautiful loofahs. Our biggest ones are on the inside of this arch. The one by the sign and then that guy are both massive. The skins have already started to harden up, which means they should be about ready. And then we've got more massive ones, and we've got some hidden ones, and this thing is just full of loofahs, which I am ecstatic about. Plus these little flowers that they produce, the bees love. This thing is covered in ants too, by the way. Something to think about if you're allergic to ants, because the ants love the loofahs. They're just crawling all over them. Now I am going to leave my marigolds. I've got my giant mission marigold, which these are super fragrant. I love the smell of these guys. Plus they're so fluffy. Good for the pollinators. I've got two of those guys. This one's a little more lopsided now that I took out that tomato cage. We've got our massive second succession of sunflowers, which I am so ecstatic about. I planted these about around the time that we harvested the garlic, and they are getting ready to head and put off their flowers. I do have some patty pan squash in here, which I'm super excited about because I haven't had squash homegrown from my garden since, well, last year I got 2, so it's been a while. A lot of these peppers have seen way better days. They are getting some curl. I don't know if they just weren't getting enough sunlight or what. The jalapenos were doing great. These guys, not so much. So I don't know what happened. And then my dahlia. So I planted I believe it was supposed to be either a lark's ebb or a creme de cassis dahlia. These are dahlias that I saved tubers from last season. And I think because I did not bag my flowers before they bloomed, like at this stage, they got cross-pollinated with other dahlias. And I got this one. This is nothing like any of the other dahlias that I've ever planted. So I don't know if that's what happened. I'd have to do some research because this looks so different from anything that I've grown, and it's not a new one that I bought this year. This is from the dahlias that I saved from last season. And since I have you guys here, this is our next little sunflower. Got a little native bee in there. I don't know if you guys can see him. But we got a nice little sunflower patch. Some of these are the sunflower Steve, and some of these are just regular old yellow sunflowers. So let me stop gabbing on. That flower has my heart. Look how pretty that is. I need to put this in a place that I'm not going to be reusing the compost from these because they have blight. So I'm going to put these actually in that pile back there. I don't grab from that. So all of the diseased plants go back there. It's a jungle. Those are just compost there, and we'll get rid of them from there. But we need to add a good dusting of worm casting and compost. All right, friends, so we got a good about 2 inches or so of compost or cow manure on this bed. This bed is actually going to become our garlic bed this season. I'm going to go ahead and switch out my tomatoes because I think I've grown my tomatoes in this bed almost every single year that I've been at this property. So I'm going to go ahead and switch them out. I think I'm going to put my tomatoes in the bed down there next season. I am going to add a good layer of our earthworm worm castings. This is quite literally just worm poop. I really would wish in the future to be kind of producing this on my own, along with compost. Again, that's going to be in a space that is much larger than the one that I have now, but it is on the list of things I would like to be producing on my own property. I'm going to just add a good couple of handfuls of this. I don't mind getting my hands in this because I like to get my hands dirty when I garden. There really is no wrong amount of this to add because it's not really like fertilizers where you can add too much and burn your plants. This is a natural product from worms. See, this even says to add half an inch to an inch of worm castings. If you're going to be adding to newly transplanted plants, wait for them to get over the transplant shock. So that's going to give them time to get established, and then you can add in some fertilizers or worm castings. Since I'm going to wait about a week to plant in this, or I may not even plant in this bed, I may just do some lettuces in this bed. But this will be just a good way to get this bed to be happy once again. All right. This bed is now fully dressed with compost and worm castings. I went ahead and I also dressed this bed, which this is a whole lot bigger of a mess than I am ready to tackle today, especially this half back of this bed. It is covered in a couple of different plants. We do have some peppers still growing in this little area. You can find them amongst all of the weeds. I've got some pokeweed, I've got some other ends. Really, I have some poison ivy back there that I'm trying to avoid. I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to deal with the poison ivy, and I'd rather not give myself poison ivy because it is not fun. I do have some gobo burdock that is right here. I went ahead and I chopped off the flowers that it had put off earlier this season. Realized I should have harvested the root right before those flowered or around the time it flowered. Obviously did not do that. So that's still just living there. But we've got a fresh bed ready for some brassicas. I think this is where I'm going to be planting my brassicas this year, along with some in my wooden bed down there. About a week ago, I went through and I planted a whole bunch of beans for a final succession of beans in this bed, and they are just now starting to pop up, which I love. There are 3 different varieties of bush beans interplanted in this area. I do need to water this, but I'm hoping that we get a good last plant of beans. Everything in the garden needs watered. I need to hop in the shower and clean myself off, as well as freshen up because I'm sweating, and the mosquitoes, of course. It's a never-ending battle. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little get ready for fall garden video as we prep beds for hopefully a successful planting. The airplanes, it's never ending. So I hope you guys enjoyed this let's get ready for fall garden planting prep. It is still pretty warm outside, but we are closing in. I do believe I am now officially under 70 days before my my first estimated frost. Let me know where you guys are watching from. I'd love to know what part of your season you are in. And I will go ahead and pop a video up here for you guys to enjoy until my next upload. But until then, thank you guys so much for joining me in my crazy, unruly, yet at times more likely than not beautiful garden. Thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you guys in the next one.